every year I keep feeling this way in the late season. Like I'm just missing out. But there's just like enough intel that shows me there's not anything happening that I just don't feel like it's worth my while, you know?
In the state of Michigan, my experience has been after the first couple days of gun season, bucks don't exist anymore. They just vanish. I feel like it has a lot to do with the way that our gun season lays out. I think you would see sustained action, more bucks, people killing deer later into November if our gun season didn't come in until later in November. You just hit the sweet spot, I think.
I got a really great story for you guys whenever we're ready to rock and roll here.
I mean, we've been rocking and rolling for
We've
the
been
past
rolling.
couple minutes.
Okay, great. So
This better be a good story.
it is a great story, and it's going to really resonate with the fathers out there. So,
Is this a poop story?
no.
Okay.
So, like last night, so I'm on a new schedule. You guys know that.
Yep.
But maybe the people don't know.
Give them the gist of it.
Wife's going back to work. There's a handful of hours every night where I'm the guy.
Yeah.
I'm in the driver's seat.
Yep.
I
Before mama gets home,
before mama gets home.
you pick the boy up from babysitter, and then dad's in charge till mama gets home.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
me. And last night, dude, as my mother was babysitting.
Yeah.
So I come home. We do the handoff thing.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah. Downside. Huh?
don't fumble the ball.
I was running tailback, and yeah, exactly.
Don't fumble the bag. Yeah.
So we do the handoff from get. It was like belligerent.
Baby lost his mind.
Belligerent. I mean, you know when they you open their mouth and they're crying and yelling and screaming and yelling so loud that their tongue almost like curdles a little bit.
Oh, I know. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And like a whole different octave. Yeah, a whole different
yeah,
octave.
yeah, like it's
it sounds
just
like
different.
a pig slaughterhouse.
Yes. 100%. It's like a squeal.
Yeah.
It goes from cry to squeal. I
Like-
know exactly what you're talking about. Been there.
So like I was there. That's where I was as a man. And-
Driving home.
No. At home.
Oh, once you got home.
Yeah, my mom was actually at my house yesterday.
Okay.
It was a different day.
Got it.
But typically, yeah, I'd be driving home. So, you know, there I am, and I'm pulling out all the stops.
Yeah.
I mean, changing arms, put them in the chest rig, put them in the chair, bounce to him, talk to him. Shh.
Yeah.
They'd like tried it all.
The passy?
Oh yeah, tried 4 different passies, fed him. He wouldn't. He like one time. I mean, I'm talking belligerent, and it's kind of like a joke in my family, like because I was that kid, right? I was that.
You were pissed off.
I was the colicky kid. Like
Yeah.
I was that dude, and so it's kind of like I almost like knew it when we had a boy. I'm like, this is gonna be
This is me.
this is gonna be repeat, payback, all
Yeah.
those things. Like it's kind of like a joke. Nobody really like comes out and says it, but it's kind of like, yeah, that's your son, right?
Yeah.
Like that thing.
You had that one comment, Nate.
And he's belligerent, and we're going on 40 minutes.
You ripping your hair out? Like,
I was walking up and
You're
down the
sweating?
stairs. I was walking outside. Every once in a while, he's a party trick he does sometimes. Like I'll take him outside and it's cold. Like it's like a shock of like cold air. And
just at
he'll
least gets him to stop screaming for a
and he
minute.
stops for like just dead silent, like. And
Right
usually
back
that
at it.
works. You walk back inside and he's kind of calm, but like it didn't. He just was like bawling, and you could hear it ricocheting off the woods. Just loud.
Damn.
Yeah, it was like curdling blood. Just like 45 minutes in, I'm thinking like, oh my god. My mom calls me about an hour in.
How's it going?
Yeah, like, hey, he was yelling. He was kind of upset when I left, and I didn't like it. Like, is everything okay? And he's like in the background yelling. And I'm like, no, he's belligerent. I got to go and hang up. She calls me back. She goes, hey, you know, something that used to work for you guys, we'd take you on a car ride. And I'm like, all right, got to go. Like, hung up. And like, here comes another 20 minutes. And I'm like, giving him the bottle, like he's spitting it out. Like I almost had him with a bottle once. Like he was kind of spitting it out, put the bottle in,
You almost had him.
and he like,
ASMR.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
and then he like, and just kept just throttling,
Yeah.
just throttling,
Full throttle.
full throttle. And so here I am. I'm like, okay, putting him in the car seat, rig him up, throw him in the freaking truck, rip down the driveway. And I just grabbed my Spotify and like,
Lullaby.
I was like looking for something, and I played the Meat Eater podcast, and I like hit it, and it was just like, and I was trying it, and just another octave, like
just not Meat Eater, Dad. Put the Painted Arrow podcast on.
And I was like, shoot, like that ain't it. And I get down the road a little bit. I'm like, all right. And I just saw Deeper in the Holler, Randy Travis, and I played it. I'm like, this is one of my favorites, Randy Travis. He paused for like a second. And then he kept just squealing. And I'm like, that ain't it.
Hey, Randy.
That ain't it. I'm like, man, I was like singing to him, like, yo, love. I was like trying to like soothe him. Like, it's all right, Bubba. It's okay. Yeah. And we're driving around, and then I'm just like panicking, honestly panicking, because like my wife's gonna call me any minute. We're about an hour and a half by myself in like a couple first days, and so then you'll never guess the song. Like this is the song that like he.
No way, Jack Harlow.
This came on, and he was out, dude. He was out. And the bass is kicking in the back right next to his seat. And I was like, oh, okay, I got you, son. Like, we're going to be just fine.
Just want a little Jack. I get it.
So I was like, my wife called me and she's like, how's everything going? I'm coming home.
We good now.
And I was like, honey, you have no idea how much I love Jack Harlow right now. It was crazy.
I dig that story.
Yeah, I knew you guys would.
We won't go too far into it, but I had a similar encounter. Situation.
Is this a Buck story?
So like with my first son, Rhett, he was a fresh baby, and Logan's cousin actually passed away. It was really sad, but we went over to the funeral in Detroit, and he's like a fresh baby. Which means I'm a fresh dad. I haven't spent a lot of time away from mom. Like, we've been doing it together. So it's kind of similar in the situation where, like, this is your first couple times, like, full-on dad mode by yourself. And he starts fussing, like, during the funeral service. Mm-hmm. I'm like, shoot. Like, I took him and we walked out. No diaper bag.
You forgot it?
Big move. I fumbled the bag.
Wait. So you didn't
even
even
up
bring
the
it?
baby. I didn't even bring it. I left it in the funeral room, like in the ceremony. I took him out, and we were like 2 minutes into the service, and it was like exactly your situation, full on baby squealing mode. Had to go to like the other end of the facility so people weren't hearing this baby scream. I'm like bouncing him. Like, I took him in the bathroom and turned the water on. I'm like bouncing next to the water, like playing stuff on Spotify, nothing. And I'm like, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, I'm never going to survive this moment. And like, I'm texting Logan, like, I texted all of her brothers. I texted her mom. I texted her dad. I'm like, can someone please bring me the diaper bag? Like, I'm sorry. Like, they're all in there crying. Like, it's a horrible situation. Like, it's a horrible funeral, like, tragic deal. And I'm just like, diaper bag, need it. Like,
Diaper.
like, I need a bottle. Bring me a bottle right now. And like, and he's screaming, losing his mind. Finally, Logan sees, like, she sees the text, and she comes out, and you can tell, like, she's crying out of one eye and like laughing out of the other. Like, she's like laughing at me because I'm like distraught. But she's like crying from the weight of the ceremony, and like, she comes out, pops a bottle out of that diaper bag, takes the baby, and he's just like, I'm like, you are like the staff at the facility were like, can we get you anything? I'm like, if you can go in there and find that diaper bag, that'd be sweet. Like, go in there and just tell them you need a diaper bag. And like, dude, it was like nothing. Like, I'm holding him next to the hand dryer, like holding him next to the sink, playing Spotify, walking him around, but like tried everything, just like you. Jack Harlow didn't do it that day.
Harlow didn't do it that day.
So
he hadn't dropped that album yet.
He hadn't dropped the album yet. It would have fixed everything.
It really would have. Damn. Okay, well, now I know.
But like this morning, like, you know, he woke up and he was this cute, smiley self. And I'm like, good morning, you know, and he looks at me and he's like, and he's all cute again. And I'm like, you scared daddy yesterday. Like, you
took
don't
some
do that
years off my
again.
life yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
My wife just thinks it's kind of funny, but like I told her the Jack Harlow story, and she was like just cracking up.
Yeah.
Like, of course. Like,
Yeah, of course it's Jack.
it's just hilarious.
That is terrifying as a new dad, though. I had my share of those stories where you literally, it short circuits your freaking brain. You're
like-
sitting there, you're like, this moment It's a moment series, but for dads.
Yes.
This
It's a moment.
moment will never end. I
Yeah.
will be stuck here forever with this crying child who's literally just making my brain melt.
Well, and Trav and I were talking about it. Like, as men, we're fixers, right? So, like, baby's crying, that's a problem. Got to fix it.
Yeah.
And it's like, apparently I don't have the toolbox with the tools to solve this problem, but like,
Toolbox
there's just-
comes usually on the chest of a
Yeah, like it feels. Yeah, I don't have those.
You don't have those. We're not equipped.
Yeah, like you could look, buddy, but there ain't nothing there. Like it is like almost it's a stressful, almost hopeless feeling where like I have no way to end this.
I do not have the tools.
Well,
The car ride is a sleeper. Like that's a veteran move.
yeah.
Like
100.
that does not surprise me that Mama Hicks was like,
Toss him in the
throw
car.
him in the pickup and run him down the road.
It's
like
dope.
that's a veteran move.
Yeah, my dad was telling me too. Like they used to, like late nights, like 2 in the morning. Veteran move. Like that's a veteran move. So I'm like, if it worked for me, maybe like father like son, like son like father. Like
Of course, it was Jack Harlow. The story wouldn't have made any sense if it was freaking Randy Travis.
it wouldn't have, because that's
Like I was kind of trying to be like, yeah, Randy Travis, but like when you said it was Jack Harlow, I'm like, freaking, of course it was. like when we know you and like something with a little boom bop comes on, like the way, like of course your son wanted a little Jack Harlow and a ride in the diesel.
we went and looked for deer. He wasn't because he was sleeping at that point, but I was
you were, yeah.
cruising the dirt roads. Like it was
God bless
beautiful.
him.
So that's
I love that.
It's a real
That's
thing.
real.
Yeah. Real thing that happened yesterday to me. And I think, this is the last thing I'll say about it, but like I think I was more so like wanting to impress my wife.
Yeah,
Like, hey,
I got this.
What's the update? What's the report? Doing another handoff, like when she gets home. And I wanted to be like, yeah, everything was really good. He had a bottle. He slept. Everything's good. And it just was like not, So
Those type of moments too make you appreciate like, God, being a mom is like it just makes you realize like mom VP, like for like a mom is different.
it is.
Oh yeah.
I think he knew that I wasn't his mom, and he was like honestly
100%.
screaming for his mom.
Yeah.
100%.
Jack Harlow was a close second.
Yeah.
It goes mom, Jack Harlow, dad.
Yeah. Well, I think we probably better talk about
Some deer hunting.
Some deer hunting here to wrap that all together. But something I wanted to talk about today is we kind of did like a post-season recap.
Mhm.
We kind of had a couple of them where we got to kind of share stories from the season. We kind of got to say like, we're going to focus on property improvements. Like we didn't really like. I want to dive another level deeper into like some things after the season here. And when I say after the season, like we're not doing the travel to Missouri in December. Like it's the season's done for us basically.
Yep.
I've had a lot of time to kind of chew on even more in depth. Some of the failures. I've been reflecting back to like some of the first encounters with deer I've ever had, like as a kid. Like I've been thinking deep into like, what am I going to change next year? Like something's got to change for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
I've been digging into that. I've been digging into property improvements.
Yeah.
At a new level. And so we didn't really prep for this in a sense, but like I kind of wanted to just have a conversation about those things. Like, is there anything when I say like, in terms of a complete recap,
Yeah.
like we had a heck of a season in many ways. We really did. We got on a lot of deer. There was I think we learned a lot about your property.
100%.
I learned a lot about my property. Is there anything like that really just sticks out to you that you've been chewing on since the last time we kind of recapped and talked deer and chopped it up like good old times?
Yeah, the thing I've been thinking a lot about is late season. I've seen some people in the state of Michigan having some decent late season success, and the common theme is always food, and so like that maybe this parlays into property improvements, but I put in a pretty good sized food plot at the home farm here this year, but I'm trying to put in a significant amount of more food next year, but a variety. Like I'm going to have a clover plot. I'm going to have a section of beans. I'm going to have a section of corn, and then I'm going to have the brassica plot. And the idea is that like have this buffet of options for them. Hopefully it all comes in well. But then I'd love to be able to eat, I guess maybe even if I've filled both buck tags, I'd love to still get some late season hunts in and try to see and understand like what can I still see bucks?
Mm-hmm.
Because in the state of Michigan, my experience has been after the first couple days of gun season, bucks don't exist anymore.
It's in many ways it's very true.
Like they just vanish. And the guys that are killing them, you hear them say like, yeah, I've been watching this buck every night, and he's living literally within 100-yard section. He gets up, he eats, he lays back down. Like after gun season and after the rut, primarily what they're focused on is staying alive and being right next to the food.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm interested to see if I can still see some bucks in late season, because you hear people talk about it still being a pretty awesome time to hunt given the right conditions.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for sure. I watched something from Bill Winke yesterday. I think maybe the 18th or 19th, Iowa archery reopened.
Mm-hmm.
So like their gun season's done and archery season reopened. And so, he was moving blinds around his property and driving with the tractor and knocking down sections of corn and trying to like create these spots of just food. And I'd like to understand or at least get some hunts in next year in the late season once I've got more to offer in the late season. Like right now, it's probably going to be more of a waste of time than anything for me to go out there because there's not a lot available to them.
Yeah.
But I'd like to give them a bunch of food that hopefully makes it through the season and then spend some time hunting late season and see if I can learn something.
Yeah. So on the topic of, you said layering, are you trying to make like where you put your food plot this year, layer it like that? Or are you trying to just scatter kind of throughout your property, different available options?
Mostly what I meant was there would be different plots in different locations, but I have thought about in one spot layering it. So having multiple food sources within the same plot.
It's funny that that's where you went with like, you've been seeing a lot of guys, not a lot, but you've been seeing some guys have some decent success late season.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of something that's been eating at me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not hunting. I'm not out on the public. I don't have any fresh intel to go off of. So I'm not doing that right now. That wasn't the focus for me this year. But like on this property that I'm at now, it's a ghost town.
Yeah.
I mean, quite literally a ghost town. I've done some walking in there with my boy. Like that's something that he does actually like, is to walk through the woods. He'll just nap. And like, it's just, there's like nothing there.
Yeah.
There's nothing to spook. There's nothing that comes in. Like we've walked all, different times of the day, and food is like you said, late season, these bucks are going to these remote areas that have good access to a small but legitimate source of food.
Yeah.
And I'm like planning to clear a giant chunk of forest.
That's why your property is interesting to me, is because if we look at it right now, there's no food source. It's huge timber and all of the leaves and most of the cover is gone. So it's this why would they be there right now? It doesn't surprise you or me that that's a ghost town primarily right now.
It's completely
Doesn't make any, like that makes perfect sense. But how do you change that?
Yeah.
Is the thing. And I think you've got a pretty decent plan. It's just going to be some freaking sweat equity.
If I'm going to kind of just dip into it just briefly.
Yeah.
Like traditionally, if you were to look at like, where do you want to put food and where do you want to locate bedding? Like typically on a hilly type terrain, you want to leave the ridge tops for bedding.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to put the food in lower locations, make them come out of the hills kind of thing. We keep using Bill Winke, but he's done a really good job this year of like, he's just showing what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's just showing exactly what he's doing. There ain't no secrets. Here's where he's hunting. Here's where the stands are. Here's where the food is. Here's what he's doing. Here's the improvements.
He's documenting the transformation of that farm.
And basically the high country is the food.
He doesn't, no.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
He doesn't touch it. He didn't
Yeah.
go up there. It's just, I think he did some cutting, made some little sanctuaries
Exactly.
and just left it for the deer.
Exactly. And what I'm having issues with is I'm dealing with a micro like
Version of that.
in many sense. So like, down in these valleys, he's got these beautiful cornfields.
Mm-hmm.
I got these like seasonally wet areas.
Right.
So it's like, I can't put food there. It wouldn't make sense to clear there. In the small low areas that I do have, that maybe it would make sense. Like I'd have to clear a ton of trees on the ridge tops to even get sun down there to make anything grow. So my original food plot that I put in that was a ghost town this year was on a ridge top, the highest point on the entire property. And since then, I've done a lot of like research. I've done a lot of talking. I gave a call to Jake Ealinger. I've talked to you about it. I've talked to a couple people. Like, is this a mistake if I put all the food on these ridge tops? Because like that's all I got. Like that's all I got with a decent amount of like legitimate flat land to
Yeah.
like I'm thinking cornfields. I'm thinking bean fields. I'm thinking big scale like transforming this property. And that's kind of what I've decided is like if I want to like have legitimate field, I have to do it on these high areas. I'm going to designate certain places as complete bedding, remote sanctuaries, and just give them to the deer all time. And that's something that I know Sturgis talks about a lot is all deer all the time. There's got to be a section of your property that's all deer all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I'm planning on documenting a giant portion of this. Like I'm waiting on a logger to come in to kind of give me an idea of like I've kind of gotten the area that I want to clear picked out, but it's like a big project.
Huge.
I mean, we're talking clearing acres.
Cutting them down is one thing. Like getting them out of there is a whole nother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is it's a project.
It's a big project, but I don't know. It's definitely not something I can just do by myself in the summer. It's not like that kind of a job.
You and a chainsaw, it'd take you a decade. Like it would.
It might take a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you got any thoughts on that, but I'm planning on having a logger out, and I kind of want to film that first encounter with this logger. Like go out there and just walk the property and film that encounter. Like I think a lot of people have this. Like I really do. I think a lot of people have like a chunk of timber and they don't have great hunting. They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm literally gonna have the logger out and just record the conversation. Like I don't know very much either. Like I'm planning on clearing this section. This guy does food plots every once in a while. He clears land, and I just like he knows tree species. I mean, just from talking to him on the phone, like he knows his tree species, and he's like, yeah, I could tell you 100 stories of how we cleared property, and he has reports from landowners saying that they've seen more mature bucks than they've seen in a long time, and a couple of years after, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. The thing that comes to mind when you talk about food on the ridge tops versus the valleys, and like comparing it to Bill Winke's property, and I guess traditionally what people would do. One thing people talk a lot about is in Michigan, we've got a lot more swamps than you would see out in like Illinois or Iowa. And so out in Illinois and Iowa, when it's like huge ag country, where like a massive chunk percentage wise of the available ground is in ag, the bedding opportunity then is these ridge tops with cover where they can't put ag. Here we've got giant chunks of ground that are lowland, wet swamp that also cannot be planted in ag, but are like gnarly thick cover.
Yep.
And so I think in your situation, it's okay to do what you're going to do because you're flanked by some really big, gnarly swamps that are going to hold the deer. So from that perspective, I don't think it's a mistake to do what you're going to do. Because again, like the general idea might be leave the ridge tops for the deer, but if that's the only available cover, but they've got awesome opportunities for bedding all around you. And I think that's one thing you and I realized when we went and walked is let's not have them bed on you. Let's have them bed in these locations just off of you, all around you in this really thick stuff. Let's give them a centralized food source that gives you the ability to hunt it on a lot of different winds, gives you much better options for access. There'll still be some spots in your property that you want to leave for the deer where they will bed. But I think primarily the options of like the really thick, gnarly cover being just off of you makes it make sense to me to put that big field in where you want to put it in.
Yeah. So if you like looked at a piece of paper, what size of paper?
8.5 by 11.
8.5 by 11. So like if you were to just take a pen like I'm doing right now and just put like an oval right down the middle, leaving like sections on each end for like.
Show the camera.
It's a great idea. Something like that. More or less.
Yeah.
mean, it's not exactly like that at all, but more or less, this is kind of what I'm trying to do. Like I have a ridge top that kind of meanders, and I want to clear.
It's almost like a spine. Like the rest of the property kind of falls off to either side. Like that's the highest point, and it goes through pretty much the center of the property. There are other ridge systems and hills, but like that's kind of the spine of it.
Yeah,
Is kind of how
it
I think about it.
meanders, and it doesn't go all the way to the back at all. But
Right.
that's kind of what I wanted to. Like I chewed on so many different things, and I walked it a ton with my son. Like during his nap time, I'd go and walk, and just like with the leaves out, you can see, you can like see the trails. You can like you get a better vibe for it. And so I did that a bunch of times, just like picturing different scenarios, and that's the only thing I could come up with is like I want to keep deer feeding at the center. Like I want to keep them towards the center of my property, right, away from the neighbor, like in the center, and by doing this, I think it's going to give me really good opportunities to make sections of bedding. I can designate like close to the food sources for does, for immature
Yeah, doe birds.
fawns, and then I have these in the back. I have like a ridge line. Like I can designate a lot more cutting and hinge cutting for mature bucks, and like almost pick it out. And it's been able for me to start at food, which is interesting how you started the conversation at like late season food sources. Like for me to start with where can I legitimately put food that makes sense for deer travel to keep them in the center of my property during daylight hours. Like that's really been my like first point.
Yeah.
Like with this chunk of timber, like where can I put food?
Right.
That's like number one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's well documented. A lot of people talk about it, and in my experience with the Crickwoods in this place, like you could spend 10 years devising a plan on how to transform that property. But what is going to make the biggest impact the most quickly? It's a big food source.
Yeah.
Like if you give the deer give them a lot of food in a spot where they've never had it, it's going to attract deer.
Yeah.
Like, and again, like with the Crickwoods, we think of it as a crossing property. There's ag to one side, a lot of bedding to the other side, and just hunting it I purposely did not plant there this year to see what would change. Significantly less deer numbers, way less bucks frequenting the area without that little tiny quarter-acre food plot.
Mm-hmm. It made a huge, yeah.
I mean, so
I've learned a lot from that food plot, honestly.
Me too. It's changed how I think about a lot of that property and this property even. Like if you said like 100% improvement on that property, I think getting in a food source gets you 40 to 60% of the way there on its own. Like you're then going to spend the next 80% of the time working for that last 40% of improvement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think your time is best spent in significant food sources initially because of what the surrounding properties offer the deer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's plenty of cover around. There's conifers up this way. There's a swamp down that way. Like they've got thermal bedding cover. They've got thick stuff. They just got to travel a really long way to get to food right now. And so if you give them a substantial amount of food that's gonna stick around for most of the season, that's gonna change everything. Yeah, it's gonna help your neighbors hunting too, but like you're not really gonna make any improvements to your property that aren't gonna also improve your neighbors hunting.
It's something that's so crazy because I usually just don't hunt a lot after like November 25th.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving typically is kind of like my last like.
Hoorah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like every year I keep feeling this way in the late season, like I'm just missing out. But there's just like enough intel that shows me there's not anything happening that I just don't feel like it's worth my while.
This is a whole nother rabbit hole, but I
want to go into that rabbit hole.
I feel like it has a lot to do with the way that our gun season lays out. I think you would see sustained action, more bucks, people killing deer later into November if our gun season didn't come in until later in November.
I'm working on it. I'm working on something about that you don't know about.
Cool. Can't wait to hear about it.
I'm working on a podcast guest to come in, and that's on my heart, and I know it's on yours and a lot of people's. Like, I'm bringing somebody in who has a lot of authority to talk about regulation change within the state of Michigan.
Cool.
So I'm working on that.
Like, let's think about Ohio, for instance. Their gun season comes in when, roughly? Is it a week?
I think it's the 28th.
Yeah, it's like almost 2 full weeks after the Michigan gun season.
Can you pull that up?
So it comes in almost 2 full weeks certainly at least a week, but I think it is 2 full weeks after the Michigan gun season. And you see you see it have the same effect as November 15th. So yeah, November 27th through December 3rd, it looks like.
Yep.
So like, let's talk about Michigan buck pull. On November 15th in Michigan, the first couple days of gun season, there are big bucks hitting the ground everywhere because it's the opening day of gun season. It has the same effect for Ohio at the end of November. But
It's 27, 28, 29, 30, 1, 2, 3. It's literally a week.
it's weak. So what I'm saying is, whenever you position that gun season, the effect of it is felt in those following days where the bucks like, oh shoot, everybody's out here with guns. The Orange Army's here. I just think, like I grew up and even till now still have this mindset that like after November 18th, like if you see a buck, wow.
I do think it's regional too. I do think it's obviously our state.
It is, but I'm just saying if our
Yeah.
gun season was the 21st or the 27th, you would see people killing awesome deer up until the 27th with a bow. Whereas right now, like I actually killed this deer, my best deer ever, on the 23rd of November. And I remember going out after church on a Sunday thinking like, I'm not going to see anything, but my wife was busy and I'm just going to go deer hunting. And it was like an immature doe came running into a food plot and he was hot on our trail.
You were in the right spot at the right time
Right. But like,
on that food plot.
but if people weren't running around with guns up until the 23rd of November, like peak estrus is the 15th. Like how awesome would bow hunting be?
It would be great.
I don't know. I mean, there's probably pros and cons to both of it. All I'm saying is like in my head after the first week or first 4 or 5 days of gun season, it's like you're never going to see a buck again.
Mm-hmm.
Not unless you're in an area with huge parcels, big ag, and low pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I want to dive so deep into that
With that guest?
with that guest. No, not now. I want because I feel like I don't have the knowledge to.
Their muzzleloader season is January 6th through 9. We were talking to Hayden Grimmer, the hunting public. They're going down there to hunt muzzleloader season in Ohio. Like, have you ever thought about hunting in January up here? Like, it doesn't seem like there's any deer left.
Unless you have these big open food sources, like that's where
Yeah.
they typically pile in. But it's hard hunting still. Like you have to have right access. Typically, if you're driving down an old country road in Michigan, this is probably true in a lot of places, but all the ag is up towards the road, and then the back half's timber.
Right.
So when you go in and hunt, when you
Yeah.
go in to walk in to hunt or to leave at the end of the night, like typically you're walking in the middle of a field where all the deer are. Like it's tough. And that's a fun challenge. Like you have to be very,
Yeah.
creative on how you're going to get into those places. But anyway, something else that I was thinking about in terms of the original question that I posed is like, what are some of the things that you've been chewing on? Like for me, it's very much how I practice.
Mm-hmm.
Man, my gear is. I think we have some of the highest end gear that money can buy. You know what I mean? Like
We got good gear. Yeah.
it's like
It ain't
we're
the
in
gear.
2023.
Yeah.
Like it's just technology's come so far. Like I don't sit here and look at the year and be like, oh yeah, like if I would have just had this, and this. It's nothing. It's nothing to do with that.
Some like, remember we had Jake Ealing around? He still shoots the same Matthews that he shot in like early 2000 or the 90s or something, right?
Yeah.
Like he kills deer with it every year. Why would he change?
Why would you? And that's
So,
kind
like-
of the approach that I'm going to take too. Is like I'm not going to try and change everything. I'm just going to stick with what I got for a little while and just try and change the way that I practice, which was
Yeah.
where I was going. The one thing that really sticks out to me is like I said this at one point, but like standing just flat on the ground and shooting at a target.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what good that does.
Yeah.
I could hit a target right now. I could hit it bullseye, no problem. Like it's not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So could you, so could anybody who shoots their bow. Like that ain't it. That ain't it. I'm more interested in like elevating my heart Like maybe I go for a run and come back and like the first 3 shots. Maybe that's like my whole day of practice.
Simulating the moment a little more.
Getting up in a tree, having like a racing heart, and like if you can't hit it on the first 2, like then you didn't do it right. Like trying to implement creative things like that. I'm still thinking about it, but like I don't think just the only practice is shooting flat on the ground. Here comes the hunting season, October 1st, and then you prepare leading up to that with getting in a saddle. Like I don't think that's it. I don't think that's it for me.
I've found like success personally with trying to do with bow hunting what I learned to do with long distance and like long distance running. Basically, like turn your brain off. Trying to figure out how to turn your brain off. Like you've done enough repetition that your body, like it's muscle memory, you know what to do. Take your overthinking out of it. Turn your brain off.
Yeah.
We've talked about the Steven Rinella quote, like be a good predator, you can get excited later. Like I feel like what I've tried to do as a bow hunter in the last handful of deer I've killed is in that moment, just turn your brain off. You're not looking at the antlers. You're not like the deer's coming in, just turn your brain off and do what you know you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm starting to kind of feel like that process. Like for me, when I started doing long distance triathlons, I had to learn how to do that with swimming the way that I knew how to do it with running. Like swimming was a brutal thing for me to learn. Like I felt like I was just suffering the whole time, and I couldn't allow my mind to just turn off and wander where I'm just like getting laps in without thinking about every lap and when is this going to be over.
Yeah.
And I somehow feel like that's similar to bow hunting, where like that deer's there right now. Your mind is racing, and you just got to get the arrow released and get him killed, and then, yay, we did it. Like I've focused on trying to just turn off my brain in that moment. Do the preparation, shoot your bow enough that you know what to do. You know it's muscle memory at that point, and then in that moment, just figure out how to turn your brain off.
So what's that look like for you?
Well, I don't really know. Like. I look back at both videos of the 2 deer that I shot this year. And like we've had some awesome MagPro footage submitted. Casey's like one of our buddies. Both of the 2 videos he sent in, like he releases the arrow and he's like, oh my God, like he's freaking out. I like watched my videos. I never like say anything. I don't even remember that moment. Like I've never, like I call you and I'm like, dude, guess what happened? But like somehow in that moment, like I'm not audibly excited. Like I think I'm starting to figure out, and I don't know how, but like just how to turn my brain off until it's done. I don't know. I really don't know. But that was like one thing I noticed about myself in watching all these videos that were submitted and then watching mine. Like, why is everybody else freaking out and super excited? Like, why didn't I get like that?
See, I love the detail that you're going into, but for some reason, it's deer dependent for me.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to do with the size, but it's more like for whatever reason, in certain moments, I'm like calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I started to think like maybe is it the deer that I have like on camera that I've been like trailing all year? And then the ones that I'm like I don't really care about that are surprises that like so
Yeah.
I kind of started thinking like maybe next year, maybe one of the changes I'm gonna implement is like maybe I just don't run cameras. Like I'm gonna create.
That'd be kind of cool.
I'm gonna create.
You should do that.
I think I might.
You should just not run cameras.
I think I might.
That'd be a super awesome experiment to talk about. Like I've heard people talk about cell cams and trail cameras. Zach Fehrenbaugh is one guy that talks a lot about like hunting's a lot more fun when you got no idea what's chasing. You're just out there relying on your woodsmanship to put yourself in a position where there should be a big buck. Then he presents himself and you kill it.
I was literally thinking about that on the way here. Like, why do I run cameras? I do it because I love the intel. I'll be honest. Like I love like the whole process is fun.
Yeah.
Maybe I run cameras, but just don't check them, so I can still get excited.
So you got it
at
the end of the year. Yeah, that could be true.
But like, I do it, and when I check them, I do it to get excited about the deer. But when I get excited about the deer, like
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's kind of counterintuitive.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I struggled with that in certain circumstances this year. Like the deer that I missed
Mm-hmm.
out here
Yeah.
made a bad made a bad shot, hit it in the guts, the
Yep.
whole recovery thing that we dove into that. Like I was really calm,
Yeah.
made a bad shot. That's a different thing. Like I remember like specifically that deer came in and I was like, I was just
Yeah,
like,
but like you didn't. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. You didn't have that deer on camera. Like you weren't excited
I know.
about that deer. We didn't even know about that deer.
I don't know, I was calm. I just think I made a bad shot.
Yeah.
I don't think I stopped him.
I think that's more. I was gonna say. I think that has to do with the stopping.
And that's another learning point. It's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
That's something else I actually wanted to like try this year is to not stop deer.
Yeah.
Learned a lesson. I don't know. Still chewing on that one too. But anyway, like I remember being in that moment, like after that, like I wasn't like beside myself in the moment.
Yeah. I
And
wasn't
then-
suggesting you were. I just found it interesting that a lot of the user footage that we got, like people are wired in that moment. And like mentally, like I'm excited after it happened, but like I just found it weird that when I watched my own videos, there was nothing. Like even like that Wilson buck, I started that video and watched him come in for 5.5 minutes.
That's brutal.
He got in. I was at full draw for 1:06 before I released the arrow. And at like no point during the video was I like, holy shit. Like I don't know. I'm not saying I have it figured out, but what I'm trying to lean into is
Turning your
being
brain
able to
off.
just turn my brain off.
Yeah.
Just when the moment presents itself, we'll think about this when it's done. Like, you know what to do. So that you don't even have to think about what to do. Like, you've shot your bow enough times.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, some of it comes down to judgment in that moment, specifically like if you're going to stop a deer or not stop a deer, like you got to be watching his body language, and like there's decision making that has to happen in that moment that isn't something you practice.
Right.
But I don't know, like I don't know. That's the thing specifically that I'm leaning into, is trying to just focus on turning my brain off in the moment.
I haven't figured out what it is that happens in that moment for me yet. I can't spell it out. Like you kind of just said, like, yeah, I turned my brain off. Like I feel like trying to figure out why. Like I don't know. Like I said, sometimes I get like beside myself. Like the deer that I shot over its back, I was like excited.
Mm-hmm.
I was literally in my mind taking grip and grins.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
that's
like,
where I was
this
on
is
that.
done. Like he's right there. Like, what was he? 10, 15
Oh,
yards?
like I could have spat on him. I could have
So
loogied him.
it was kind of like, you wait all year for this moment. Here he is. He's right there. Like, this is done.
It was a version of that.
Yeah.
Definitely. It was a version of
Like,
that.
here's my opportunity. Like, we all talk about it. You're gonna get them. Here's mine. He's right there. Like, this one's done. Like
it was exactly kind of like that. But I don't know. I still haven't figured it out. But all this to say, like, I'm going to be practicing differently to prepare for those moments. And maybe that's something that I do is maybe I don't run cameras. Maybe I just go into, hunt it. Let's go and hunt it. I'm going to make the bedding areas. I'm going to make the food sources. I'm going to understand where I want to be in certain winds. Like, maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe I don't need to get all.
Do you think you'd be freaking out more though if there's this massive buck that you did have on camera and like you were seeing him for the first time in the stand at 15 yards? Do you think you'd be freaking out more?
I don't know, because I can't tell you if that's why.
I'm not saying it's free. I don't know. I really don't know what I'm saying. I'm not saying you do freak out. I'm just saying if you think that it's a version of, I know this deer's on camera, it matters, like I got to get it done. Does that amplify instead of going the other direction if you're seeing him for the first time right now?
I think something that we talked about is, man, we're going to shoot more does this year with the bow.
Yeah.
I think that just being in that situation more often helps tremendously.
It's just, yeah. It's live practice.
Mm-hmm. And killing does is not
Hard.
easy. It's not.
Freaking dude, they the way they can contort and twist is unlike any buck I've ever seen.
So I think that's something that I definitely have kind of jotted down. Like I got a little note section. Like that's one of the things. Like, just I get the opportunities every year.
It's just, it seems like it's a time and convenience thing. Like you know all the work that follows when you release that arrow,
Yeah, but
and it's like somehow you want it to be worth it to like be that buck you've been chasing.
I 100% agree. I think that would help too if we had a $1 state. You'd shoot more does. You just would.
Yeah, I mean, shooting 2 deer, I don't want to be done hunting. Like, can you imagine if you shot your first, like, imagine we were a $1 state and you do run cameras and you've got this awesome buck on camera and you get to kill him October 7th. Your season's done.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't sound like any fun.
No.
In that scenario, like I got to buy an Ohio tag, or I got to buy, like, you got to go somewhere else and deer hunt November.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the Holy Spirit buck. You shot him on October 1st. Imagine we're a $1 state. Deer season hasn't even started yet for most people. Like, a lot of people aren't even going to put their first sit in until the end of October, and you're done in October 1st.
Yeah, it'd be crazy.
That'd be wild. I think it would be good for the age structure of the deer. I'm not going to dispute that. I probably would be for it, but I'd have to hunt some other states, I think.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Yeah, that if you would just be so much more selective too, I think.
You really would. Yeah, like I hear people say, like, I got 2 tags. One's for a freezer buck, and then one's for horns.
One's for horns.
I love when people say horns too instead of antlers. Like, I got a tag for a freezer buck and one for horns.
One for horns.
Okay, shoot a doe. Shoot a freaking doe, and then shoot one for horns.
I really do.
Good night of living.
I wanna do a whole thing. I want to do like a 3-hour long podcast with somebody who has like authority to kind of dissect the legal aspect of how do you actually change laws, regulation change. Like what exactly needs to happen, and what has happened in the past, and what is currently happening. I want to bring that guy in, and I'm working on that.
Cool. I look forward to that.
Yeah, you should.
I do.
Is there anything else?
I don't know. Bow hunting's a freaking awesome and hard thing to do. Like, it's that simple. And I really enjoy the land piece of it, and the, that habitat, and just seeing how it impacts deer, right? Like, the fact that you can take a piece of property where, like, okay, we'll look at the Crickwoods. Like, my grandpa hunted that for most of my life before I was ever really into bow hunting. And he would usually have an opportunity at a young buck first couple days of bow season. And then there would be most hunts he would come in and be like, yeah, didn't see a hair tonight. And some of that I think has to do with, like, how you're accessing and what, he hunted a lot of the same stand and blah, 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 blah. But I also like the fact that you put in a food plot and it changes the game entirely. Like, the fact that you can do something that is going to change your outcome is just, I think that's why I like it. It's not just leaving it up to chance.
Mm-hmm.
I went deer hunting a couple times, didn't see any deer. Oh, how can you change that? I think that's why I like it.
Yeah, it makes it a year-round thing too.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody though. Some people don't like getting their hands dirty.
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to cut down trees and put in food plots and put in trails, and I want to do that.
Yeah.
Plant
So
trees.
I think quite literally tomorrow, a logger's going to come out on the property. I'm going to record that conversation.
That'd be sweet.
And we're gonna figure out, like, I don't know if we're gonna get a drone out there, but I want to like show the scale of what I'm trying to do.
Trav, do you have a drone?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're gonna get one.
We might need a drone for this project.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool to, like, well, with OnX, we could walk the perimeter with the tracker on, and then like overlay that over an aerial to say, like,
No,
this is where
you need a drone.
Yeah, well, we still need the drone.
No, we need a drone.
Shut up, Dad. We need the drone. But it would be cool to, like, literally do a flyover, which is what it looks like now. And then when you change it, that'd be really, really cool. Because it's not going to be a quick transformation. It's not like Nate and Dev and a freaking rake and a couple shovels, like a chainsaw or two. Like, it's not that. Like, this is a like doing timbering.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yep.
and then digging stumps out and cultivating soil that has not seen sunlight in God knows how long. I mean, how old do you think some of those trees are?
30 years, 20 years.
plus. So like, you're bringing sunlight to the forest floor in specific sections that probably hasn't seen a good amount of sunlight in freaking 30 to 50 years.
Mm-hmm. You know, like even after you do timber improvement, it takes a couple of years. It's not like it's just like there they are, you know. And
Well,
and that's
that-
a huge food source too. That's
The
probably
browse.
that's probably the deer's primary food source is woody browse.
Well, yeah, when you cut it, what you were referring to for a couple of years would be like the regrowth, like new stem count, like all
Yeah.
of that. But I mean, if you clear it all out in 1 year and then plant a big cornfield, like you could take something that was several acres of timber with offering the deer nothing and turning it into several acres of corn within a year.
Yeah.
That's going to have an incredible impact very quickly.
I'm really excited to do it. So yeah, I want to do next podcast. Whether I don't know if there's a schedule, we have somebody coming or not, but I want to have a last round of like checking cameras. I haven't checked cameras in a long time.
I pulled a bunch. I haven't really talked to you about it, but I did pull a bunch. There's one I have out here still left running that I'm kind of excited to pull.
I'm getting ready to go out and kind of like
Round them up.
round them up.
I need to go back out and get all the cameras. I pulled a bunch of cards, but left the cameras. I need to like go out. I mean, in years past, I've liked to leave them running to like see if I can see a buck drop his antler or whatever. But I think I'm going to just pull them all this year and bring them in and
Yeah, I'm in the
clean
same
them
boat.
up, take the batteries out and the whole thing.
I'm gonna do that very soon, and I'm excited because they've been running for
Wow.
a while since I've been in there, month, or better. So, all right, I think that's it for this one. Really quick update: show schedule coming up. We're gonna be traveling the country. I think we've mentioned this on a previous one, but we're gonna be going to the ATA show here in January, followed up by the Great American Outdoor Show, followed up by the National Wild Turkey Federation in Nashville. We're going to be down in Nashville. That's going to be a fun one.
That'd be fun.
Then we're going down to
Iowa Deer Classic.
Des Moines, Iowa. Then we're going to the Columbus Open Season Show.
Columbus is before Wisconsin?
Yes.
And then it's
Oh.
Wisconsin Dells Open Season Show.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's kind of a summer schedule that we're not kind of putting out there yet. But that's a lot of states, y'all. That's down to Missouri, down to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, down to the National Wild Turkey Federation in
Tennessee.
Yeah, Nashville.
Tennessee. Yeah,
Nashville,
sorry.
Tennessee.
Missouri,
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Iowa,
Columbus.
Ohio, Wisconsin.
That's correct.
If you're in one of those states, come see us.
That's going to be really exciting. Big time. Big things to show. Wow. Big things to show. Last week we had like that salesman-ish
Yeah.
podcast where we kind of told you what we had
what's
new.
new? Yeah.
Those are all going to be there. So if you want to see some of the new products, like that'd be a fantastic time to come around, see us, meet us, the whole thing.
There might be some things there to see that we haven't talked about yet, too.
Oh, there will be. Yeah. 100%.
Hmm.
100%. Am I missing anything?
I don't think so.
All right, y'all. Thank you for listening along on this episode of the Painted Arrow Podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.